Crude prices moving higher this morning, back above $90. WTI up 3% now after some new U.S. strikes on Iran overnight. Joining us now, Amos Hochstein, TWG Global Managing Partner. He's a former White House senior advisor in the Biden administration. Amos, it's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, too.
I'm going to look at two polar opposites. If President Trump got everything he wanted, and it all came true, everybody signing on to the Abraham Accords, no nuclear material left in Iran of the enriched material. Iran not controlling the Strait of Hormuz since it's in international waters. If all those happen, all those things, it would be amazing. On the other hand, Iran seems to say it's going to continue to control the Strait, not going to hand over any of the nuclear material, and wants sanctions relief and wants billions of dollars that's frozen right now, and once that freed up, along with war reparations. They don't even seem like we're in the same universe in terms of where we are. Is there something we're missing? Are there moderates in Iran that aren't entrenched way over on that side, Amos, that we're talking to?
So I think you're right in describing the picture as this binary statements coming out of the two sides, which is why those two are not even nobody's negotiating those issues at all. The only thing that's being negotiated right now is an MOU that will open the straits and give a time horizon where we negotiate all these tough issues of the enriched uranium that's already, right, the stockpile of enriched uranium, the future of enrichment, et cetera. And right now, we're only negotiating essentially what will it cost the United States, what will we have to give Iran to open the straits, kind of an open for open. So we went into a war, we fought a war, we're now negotiating over the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before the war, in order to give us space to negotiate the other issues. Because you're right, the claims that we're making on the U.S. government side, the public claims, which is not what the U.S. government is claiming in the negotiating room as a position, don't even match the reality of where the Iranians' public statements are. My experience is that normally whatever we're saying publicly is not exactly the posture in the room. The problem here is that President Trump is elevating the publicity of it, and therefore it gets very hard to negotiate an outcome against public expectations.
You have not been a rabid critic of the whole thing. I think you're hopeful that this could end up being a positive for maybe for the region and maybe for the United States. Is that fair to say, Amos, or are you disconsolate and pessimistic?
Look, Joe, as you said, I try to be the bottom line. I get criticized from the far left and the far right. The bottom line is this. I'm on Team America. I'm always on Team America, regardless of who the president is. It's not a secret I'm not a fan of President Trump's. It's not a secret that I thought that we should not have gone to this war, and that really I still don't understand why we entered the war. I'm confused as I was in February. Having said that, I'm Team America. I want us to win. Whenever we do something, I want it to have good outcomes, and I believe Iran is a horrific regime that has hundreds of thousands of people's blood on their hands. I want this to be a good outcome. I just don't understand this process that we're in. I don't think we're going in a good direction. And I think there's an irony here. Wall Street wants the war to end, but the reason the war is not ending is because of Wall Street, right? I mean, that's the irony that's the reality. Wall Street wants to believe that President Trump is saying is right, that we are on the precipice of a deal any second, which is why oil prices have dropped, despite the fact that the data is coming out that on like gasoline inventories are drawing to the place where they soon won't be able to draw. Our entire U.S. economy is now based on inventories, but inventories are finite. They end at some point. And we're getting to that point, as I said on your show a few weeks ago, by the middle of June, we get towards that cliff, maybe the end of June, but not beyond that, right? The inventories are coming down every single week. The API data yesterday, the EIA will have data today at noon that will show more inventory draws, which means we're already 5% below, more than 5% below the 5-year average, which means we're going down to a point where we can't do that anymore. And then this buffer that we've been living through goes away. Now, I think it's incredibly important to reach a deal before all of that happens, where we still have the leverage is kind of equal. Both sides have leverage. At some point, that could switch, where the leverage goes to the Iranian side without us having a matching leverage, except for the huge leverage of the U.S. military and going back to strikes. That's how I see the situation now.
The two situations I described at the top, on a Venn we use Venn diagram a lot. I don't know. It always seems to, when you're trying to, because nothing, I guess in this country right now, there's no overlap on anything. So we're constantly saying it. So there wasn't a whole lot of overlap on those two scenarios. But, Amos, if you're a total optimist and believe the president in what he's saying, and if that were to come to pass, all those things, all the things that I checked off, you would have to go back and say, I was wrong, right? This was worth doing. It was. The Strait's now open. They don't have the nuclear stuff anymore. Abraham Accords, the whole region is changing. You'd have to shake your head and say, wow, he did it. And I guess you're just saying you think that's not a very likely scenario. What do you put that at, 10 or 20%?
I think that's well below 10%.
Well below
that
10%.
Scenario. Well below 10%, because I think that no matter what happens, Joe, the Iranians will control the Strait of Hormuz for the foreseeable future. It doesn't even matter what the deal says. And everybody in the region believes that. Trust me, I've been to the region. I spoke to the leadership in the region. They all know that. We will negotiate over how much control they have physically. But even if they say we're not charging a toll and so on,
yeah,
they're already there. And that's why you're seeing the build out of infrastructure away from it.
If the midterms weren't coming up, this would be as good a time as any to just take that off the table permanently, because they should not be able to control what's happening there for the global economy in international waters. And sooner or later, somebody probably needed to go in and just end that situation. You're sort of just resigned.
But Joe, we can't. There are limits to our military power and abilities.
But are there? If you were going
hold on, Joe.
Yeah.
You're right. If we want to go in and take over the country of Iran,
right,
but we're not going to do that. It was a bad experience in Iraq. We're not going to do it here, and this is a far bigger country. So
I know.
we should enter conflict so we can win. And I think this one, I see it as a very low likelihood of your scenario, your fantasy scenario. Right. The more realistic one is complicated. And again, I say we're several weeks away from where the economic issues start affecting us in a fairly significant way.
The worst case, almost, you're right, is it something that looks like what we had, which was terrible, the JCPOA or something like that. That's the worst. If we
Joe, that's the likeliest. That's the likeliest
scenario. Well, that's depressing. All right, Amos, you're big downer. Good to have you. Yeah, good to have you on. Look at that smile. God, you're beautiful.
Realistic or optimistic, those are all different things.
I know.